I have never seen people get this crazy about a camera. What the heck? So, the FX5, probably the most hyped, complained about, hated on, loved thing that I have ever bore witness to. If you're in the filmmaker space at all right now, you have probably heard about this camera from someone or something. You've seen it somewhere, someone either complaining about it, someone loving it, someone reporting rumors and speculations about it, which we will get to in due time, trust me. But I just kind of want to take a second and talk about how I'm seeing people hate on this camera, which isn't even out yet, for things that other cameras have and also don't have, but that they said that they wanted. I don't know. I feel like people are getting political about cameras when cameras are literally just little picture boxes we hold around in our hands. There should be nothing political about cameras. But I think the rise of popular camera YouTubers, YouTube filmmakers and all that has really contributed to this like mob mentality among different people who use different brands. Like when the FX3 and FX6 came out a couple years ago, like 5 years ago now, there was brand loyalty to Sony or Canon, but I don't feel like it was this bad. You know, maybe it's just me, but I just kind of wanted to point that out there, that everybody's kind of talking about this camera right now, and I don't want to add more to the noise. I just kind of want to talk about some of the specs that have been reported, kind of what I'm hoping to see from this camera, and whether or not I'm thinking about getting one. So all these specs I'm about to go over right now, they're all coming from Andre Pizzini. I think he's European, so his name is a little more unique, and I'm probably butchering it. So just to start things off, the camera has a 5K resolution. Now, obviously, this is up from the 4K you find in something like the FX6 or the FX30 or the A7S III, which is up there. But it's not a crazy jump in resolution, and some people may have problems with that and some people may not have problems with it. But personally, it's a little more resolution, makes the image a bit sharper. You can crop in a little bit if you want to, but for those people saying, I want like 6K, I want 7K, I want 8K, what if I need to reframe my shot? Why don't you just get it right in camera the first time? With 4K, you can crop in. I've done it on a lot of videos. I'm probably doing it right now, and I guarantee you don't really notice. And to add on to that, it also has a fully stacked sensor. Now, there were rumors at the beginning of the rumor cycle that said it was going to have a global shutter. So global shutter, for those of you who don't know, is something akin to what you'll find in a Komodo X or a V-Raptor. When the camera takes the picture, you know, one of the frames out of the 23 frames or the 60 frames or whatever, it's taking the image all at once, which is really rare for cameras because it takes a lot of processing power. Most cameras, like the FX30, it takes those images line by line, you know, so you have a line of pixels and it's taking that image bit by bit. And so if you move the camera, you'll notice on a kind of a mid-tier sensor, you'll see a little bit of warping in the movement, and that's what's called rolling shutter. But for a global shutter, you don't get that issue. It is literally just a straight picture of the image. That sounds great until you consider that Sony hasn't really done a whole lot in the global shutter space. It has a global shutter camera, the A9 Mark III, and I think it's a really great camera. Base ISO starts at like 2000, which is really high. Right now I'm shooting on a camera that has an 800 base ISO, and I think its second base ISO is 2500. Like that's kind of high for a base ISO, and I don't believe it has a dual base ISO either, which is really big and important for a lot of Sony shooters. Maybe Red has worked out some dark magic for their global shutter sensors. That's not the case for Sony. And you also, I've heard, I don't know if this is true, I've never used the A9 Mark III before, but it is said that with that sensor, the camera sacrificed a little bit of dynamic range. And personally speaking, for me, I would much rather have more dynamic range to work with, you know, like the ARRI cameras, which have 17 stops of dynamic range, rather than a global shutter. But it seems like Sony kind of met it in the middle here. Instead of putting a global shutter sensor into the camera, they've instead chosen to put a fully stacked rolling shutter sensor into the camera. And now I don't know all the science behind fully stacked, partially stacked, non-stacked, but a fully stacked sensor is what they have inside of the Sony A1 and A1 Mark II, which are their top tier all-around cameras. Those are the flagship cameras for Sony, and they are really freaking fast. That, coupled with the fact that this camera is rated to have a lower megapixel count, I think it's about 16.6 megapixels, which is 4 up from the Sony FX6 and A7S III and FX3, which are 12 megapixels, which allow them to have their terrific low light performance and fast shutter speeds. So we're looking at a semi-high resolution, super fast, distortion-free, low light beast. And in addition to all of that, there are rumors that it might feature a triple base ISO similar to some of Canon's more recent models. And then also something that they seem to have learned from the FX2, which kind of, you know, flopped a little bit back in 2025, is they're adding a removable external EVF. A lot of people actually praise the external EVF on the Sony FX2 as being really high quality, and it kind of gives your eye a private movie theater to view your image through, which you don't really get with an external monitor. But the big problem of it was it felt kind of flimsy. There was no locking mechanism to lock it down, and so everyone was really scared that it was just going to get snapped off. But it's also kind of awkwardly sandwiched onto the camera when it comes to caging and rigging. Makes it kind of difficult to throw a cage on that thing and build out the camera, because you have to take into account that EVF. With this camera, Sony has definitely learned their lesson, and they're going to make it removable. I believe, according to some of the leaked images we have here, the EVF, I don't know if you can see that. I'll just put it up in editing. According to this picture on Sony Alpha Rumors, the EVF that we're seeing here, it plugs into the external hot shoe, and it reads the image from the camera, and you can take it off and put it on whenever you want. So that is pretty sweet. And then one of the biggest things that I've seen is that large 3.5-inch LCD screen. Now, it's not as big as something like the Nikon ZR's complete 4-inch LCD screen, but it is a half-inch bigger all around than the Sony FX3s and the A7S III's LCD screen, and I've heard that it's going to be a lot brighter. I don't know if it's going to be full OLED like the Kinefinity Vista, but that is a marked improvement over Sony's previous LCD screens, which are not that great. And additionally, it's going to be fully tiltable, which is something that we've seen in Sony's more recent generations of cameras like the A7 V, the A7R6, and the A1 Mark II. So that's another thing that Sony's cameras are going to start having that a lot of the other competition just doesn't have. Like this camera that I'm shooting on right now, it's from the previous generation of Sony cameras. It doesn't have a fully tiltable LCD screen. It only tilts in, I think, 3 different directions, which is great, but sometimes you just wish it would go all the way around. It can be really limiting sometimes. Here's something that I've seen floating around a lot, is it has a Sony Venice inspired interface. This has led many people to call it a baby Venice. I don't know if I would go that far, because if anything, I think the FX6 and potentially FX6 Mark II would be closer to a baby Venice, just because the body style is a lot more similar. But if it has more buttons and more things that it shares in common with the Venice, like false color, like waveforms, like Sony's RAW codec, which only the Burano and Venice have, that would be pretty swank. So we'll see if it's all marketing hype or if it's actually kind of real. Speaking of, actually, I might have been wrong. It might not just be marketing hype, because you can see right here the back of the camera, allegedly, it's gotten rid of the whole focus wheel. I think this wheel right here is the only thing that you can actually use, besides, I guess, the touchscreen itself, to direct the camera's menu system and features. So, and it seems like you have a bit right here for clips, and then, yeah, it just seems like way more of the back of the camera has been taken up by this screen. And they've opted for more solid buttons, which is something that you would see on the FX6 and the Burano and the Venice especially. So that is pretty cool. And then last but certainly not least, probably the most requested feature for a Sony camera, besides internal RAW, which has been rumored, is 5K 3x2 open gate. Yes, you can do open gate in this camera in both 5K and 4K. And not to mention, there are also a lot of other rumored codecs and resolutions for this camera, such as 4K Super 35, which is amazing because the FX6 for some reason doesn't have a 4K Super 35 mode. I don't know why, but it doesn't. But anyways, back to OpenGate. Everyone's been asking for OpenGate. This camera finally comes out with OpenGate, and everyone is sitting around grumping about how this camera has it or that camera has it. It's like, what do you want? You asked for OpenGate, it's here now, and you're still mad. I just think this camera has a lot of the things that everyone's been asking for, and a lot of people right now are up in arms saying it's not, it's not good enough. It's like, what do you mean? It has features that many other cameras out in the market right now don't have on their own. The Canon C50, for example, it has OpenGate, it has a high resolution, it has triple base ISO, but it doesn't have a removable external EVF, it doesn't have a 3.5-inch LCD screen, and it also doesn't have a fully stacked sensor. I've seen the rolling shutter on the C50 and it's fine, it's decent, but it's not the best rolling shutter performance I've ever seen. It also doesn't have IBIS, which, to be fair, this camera hasn't confirmed to have IBIS either, but if it's modeled after the FX3, if it's basically the FX3 Mark II and not in a bigger body like the FX6, I would kind of be shocked if Sony decided just not to do it. And then if you take and compare it to the Nikon ZR, the Nikon ZR, it has a bigger LCD screen, it has 6K, it has the RAW light codec in it, but it doesn't have a decent non-RAW codec. Nikon keeps saying that they're going to release a firmware update to fix the N-Log, and I think they're saying that they're going to add red log as well, but I don't see it. It's not here yet, and it also doesn't have OpenGate. So now, before I go off the deep end with all the different specs and then everybody's eyes glaze over with just the amount of useless knowledge that I've packed into my head, I just want to say this. If these specs are true, if we get everything that I've talked about, we get the IBIS, we get the XOCN codec, we get the big 3.5-inch LCD screen that's super bright, we get OpenGate, we get all of these things, then this is a fantastic camera. And honestly, I'm half convinced to buy it already. And right now, all I'm waiting for is to see when Sony's going to announce it. It's rumored that they're going to announce this camera later in July 22nd to be exact, I'm pretty sure. But I've got half a mind to buy it. And I think we all need to just take a step back and realize at the end of the day, these are just tools. These are just tools for you to use to create. You should not stake your identity on them. You should not stake your career on them. If one camera isn't suiting your needs, move to a different system. Just do that. There's no reason to start arguments like you would about the presidential election in some comment section about a camera, okay? There's no point in any of that. These are just products. But anyways, that's enough rambling from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Are you stoked about the Sony FX5 II? If you are, let me know down in the comment section down below, and I'll try and keep you guys up to date. All right, I'll see you guys. Peace.